A year after eliminating 9 people on Halloween night, Art the Clown strikes again, and now he'll have the help of new entities in his hunt. Today we're going to recap the story of the movie series, Terrifier, from 2016 and 2022. After leaving a Halloween party, 2 friends were walking alone down the street at night when they suddenly spotted a clown. When he realizes that they are drunk, Art leaves and the girls decide to go to a pizzeria for dinner. However, shortly after they enter the establishment, the bizarre clown appears again and begins to stare at Tara with a frightening smile on his face. When she realizes that her friend is bothered by that guy's looks, Dawn decides to intervene and goes to talk to him. After taking a few photos with the monster, the young woman returns to her table and the clown presents Tara with a wedding ring. After serving the pizza to the girls, Steve says he'll throw the clown out as soon as he comes out of the bathroom. Looking at the next table, Tara realizes that Art has left a black bag behind and begins to wonder what's in it. At that moment, the pizza chef kicks Art out of the establishment and throws the black bag outside, after the mess he made in the bathroom. After dinner, the girls walk together to their car and discover that the tire is flat, so Tara borrows her friend's cell phone to call her sister, since her own is out of battery. While waiting for Vicki to arrive to pick them up, the girls are waiting inside the car and Tara begins to wonder if it was the clown who blew out the car tire. Meanwhile, at the pizzeria, after cleaning the bathroom, Ramon goes to say goodbye to his boss and finds Steve's head on the counter. The man immediately tries to run away, but is attacked by Art, who cuts off his fingers and then pierces the man's face several times with a kitchen knife. While waiting for her sister, Tara starts to feel the urge to go to the toilet and asks the employee who works nearby for permission to use the toilet in the storeroom. When the young woman enters the place, Dawn decides to stay in the car waiting for her and hears the news on the radio about an attack that has just taken place in the pizzeria. At that moment, Art calmly gets into the car and the young woman starts screaming, but the janitor can't hear her because he's wearing headphones. After using the bathroom, Tara tries to find her way to the front door and discovers that there is a woman hiding there. Terrified, she asks to be excused and continues on her way, but when she reaches the front door she comes across the clown and quickly runs away. When she hears Art approaching, the young woman hides behind an old car and waits silently in the hope that he will leave. Minutes later, when the clown seems to have given up, Tara walks cautiously towards the door, but is surprised by the arrival of the clown, who pierces his victim's leg several times. After knocking the girl down, Art tries to squeeze her neck, but Tara attacks him and manages to escape. When she reaches the main entrance, she discovers that the door is locked with chains and decides to climb the stairs in the hope of finding someone to help her. Just then, the girl spots Mike and starts calling out to him, but once again the man can't hear her thanks to his headphones. Just then, the clown appears and manages to capture Tara. He then injects a tranquilizing liquid into the young woman's body to put her out. When she wakes up, Tara is tied to a chair and despairs when she realizes she has been captured by the clown. The monster is going through his bag of tools and threatens to use them against the young woman in order to frighten her. However, Art doesn't hurt the girl. Instead, he shows her that Dawn has also been captured and is tied upside down. After picking up a saw, the clown starts cutting Dawn's body in half and Tara starts freaking out because she can't do anything to help her. Seeing her friend being eliminated right in front of her, Tara concentrates all her strength on freeing herself and strikes the clown with a knife. However, instead of eliminating him once and for all, the girl decides to run away and grabs a piece of wood to defend herself while trying to find a way out. After recovering from his injury, Art goes after his victim, but this time Tara is prepared and hits him several times with a board. However, during the attack, the monster takes a pistol that was hidden inside his boot and shoots at the young woman, who falls to the ground after being hit in the leg. Seeing Tara completely defenseless, Art decides to shoot again and, after hitting her in the abdomen, he shoots Tara in the face. Just as he's about to fire the fatal shot, the clown discovers that his gun is out of ammunition and goes out to get new bullets. Just then, Vicki arrives to pick up her sister and sends a message to Dawn's cell phone, saying that she is in front of an abandoned building. Immediately, Art replies to the message telling the woman to enter through the back door and, before going to meet her, he shoots Tara several times in the face. When she hears the shots, Emily, the homeless woman who lives hidden away in the warehouse, decides to investigate what's going on and runs away when she sees the clown. Desperate, she decides to ask Mike for help and tries to alert him to the presence of the hooded clown. However, the clerk believes that she is just a crazy woman and decides to ignore her. At this point, he goes downstairs to call his friend, but ends up being hit by the clown, who knocks him out with a hammer to the head. Determined to get out of that place, Emily runs to her hiding place to get a doll that she believes is her daughter. However, when she gets there, the woman realizes that the baby has been captured by the clown and approaches him to try to get him back. At that moment, Emily affirms that there is goodness in Art's heart and realizes that he has become someone bad because he suffered so much during his childhood. Moved by this situation, the woman hugs him while Will shows up to try to find out why his friend called, since Mike was attacked before he could answer. As she enters the building, Vicki calls Dawn once again and hears the girl's phone ring. Then, slowly, she walks towards the noise and finds Dawn's body cut in half. When she sees the macabre scene, Vicki panics and runs around the warehouse calling her sister's name. After walking through the entire warehouse, the woman believes she has managed to find Tara and calls the police. However, soon afterwards, the woman spots Emily's body and discovers that the person she thought was her sister is actually the clown. While trying to escape, the woman realizes that all the windows are locked and decides to hide in the bathroom when she sees Art approaching. However, it's not long before the clown manages to find her and tries to open the door. Luckily, just then, Will starts honking his horn in front of the building to attract Mike's attention, so the clown decides to go and meet him. Just as he's about to give up talking to his friend, Will finds a key under the mat and manages to get into the warehouse. Walking through the abandoned place, the man finds a bloody doll on the ground and bends down to pick it up. At that moment, Art appears and strikes the intruder on the head with a knife. He then uses a machete to cut his neck. After ripping Will's head off, the monster takes a mini bike to meet Vicki and, while trying to hide from him, the woman ends up in Emily's old hideout. While she's trying to decide which way to go, Art shows up and tries to take her out with a plastic bag over her head, but Vicki manages to free herself and pierces the clown's foot with a giant nail. She quickly runs through the warehouse in search of a way out, but finds her sister's body with her face destroyed. When she learns that her sister has perished, Vicki collapses and is found by Art, who hits her several times with a chain. Hearing the woman's screams, Mike decides to go there to help her and hits the clown over the head with a metal bucket. When the monster collapses, Mike helps Vicki up and says he'll get her out of there. After entering a room, the man locks the door and calls the police for help. At the end of the call, after informing the operator of his location, Mike realizes that it is not safe to remain there and tries to take Vicki to his truck, as the young woman is losing a lot of blood and needs to get to the hospital as soon as possible. However, the door is locked and Mike has to find a way to open it. While he's trying to find a tool to break the chain, Art appears and strikes the employee several times on the head until he manages to crush it completely. Seeing Mike being eliminated, Vicki desperately tries to get out of there and manages to open the padlock. But before she can escape, the clown attacks her and she has to hit him to get away. The problem is that the street is completely empty and the woman can't find anyone to ask for help. So she decides to go into a garage and is followed by Art. However, when he realizes that he won't be able to get through that small opening, the clown decides to steal Mike's car and uses it to knock down the wooden gate. At that moment, Vicki ends up being hit and faints, then the monster starts devouring parts of her face. Minutes later, the police show up and Art is caught red-handed, but just as he was about to be arrested, he makes an extreme decision and grabs his gun. However, instead of shooting the cops, the clown does something completely unexpected and blows his own head off. After the supposed elimination of the criminal clown, one of the policemen calls headquarters to request reinforcements and the other is amazed to discover that Vicki is still alive. That night, the clown's body was taken to the morgue along with Mike's remains, but when he sees the clown, the coroner realizes that he is still alive and ends up being attacked. A year later, when she finally manages to go through all the procedures to try to reconstruct her face, Vicki is finally released from hospital, but after that she has never been the same. After seriously wounding the coroner, Art walks over to the mirror to try to find out why he is alive, as he has a huge hole in his skull. Meanwhile, the doctor tries to call the police, but can't get through to the operator because his throat has been crushed. At that moment, Art approaches and eliminates the man by hammering him on the head. He then gouges out one of his victim's eyes and delivers the final blows to eliminate him. After the attack, the clown who was resurrected by an evil entity steals some materials from the morgue and walks quietly through the streets. Arriving at a laundrette, Art takes out his clothes and puts them in the machine. While washing, he takes the opportunity to amuse himself with the accidents reported in the newspaper and suddenly realizes that he is being watched by a girl just as bizarre as he is. Just then, the little girl approaches with a terrifying smile on her face and starts playing with the clown. But when he sees the scene, the man in the laundry room doesn't understand what's going on, because Art is the only one who can see the young woman. Minutes later, the clown eliminates the poor man and puts on his clean clothes to start a new wave of attacks. The following year, when Halloween is only a few days away, Sienna starts to make her costume and, during dinner, discovers that her brother is planning to dress up as Art the clown. However, the young woman doesn't agree with this decision and advises him to find another costume, as it would be too sick to pay homage to the guy who brutally eliminated 9 people last Halloween. After dinner, while his mother and sister tidy up the kitchen, Jonathan goes back to his room and begins to research the details of Art's crimes. For some time now, Sienna has noticed that her brother is different and tries to warn her mother, but Barbara says it's just a phase and will soon pass. That night, Sienna falls asleep while watching TV and dreams that she is in a cafeteria with other young people her age dressed like children. Suddenly, Art appears and is greeted with joy by everyone present. However, on seeing him, Sienna begins to despair and receives a mysterious box as a gift. When she opens it, the young woman sees a heart that is still beating and she despairs. Just then, the clown pulls a gun out of his black bag and starts shooting at everyone around. After being shot, Sienna manages to hide and becomes the only survivor of the attack. However, the young woman has a leg injury and can't run. Seeing Art approaching, the young woman reaches into a cereal box and pulls out a sword she got from her late father when she was a child. She then uses the object to defend herself against the flamethrower that the clown tries to use to set her on fire. Just then, her angel costume catches fire and Sienna wakes up frightened. She immediately tries to put out the flames, but begins to choke on the smoke and leaves the room. When she realizes that her daughter is in danger, Barbara runs to get the extinguisher and manages to put out the fire, but blames Sienna for what happened, saying that she left candles burning overnight. After the scare, the young woman returns to her room and realizes that the sword she used to protect herself from the flames is still intact. The next morning, Art, with the help of his new friend, begins to prepare for Halloween and watches Victoria's interview. After destroying the TV, Art and the girl go to visit one of the city's schools and are caught by Jonathan. For some reason, the young man can also see the entity and is shocked to see those monsters devouring the body of an opossum. During lunch, when she meets her friends, Sienna learns that Monica Brown, the journalist, has been eliminated after interviewing Victoria. Upon receiving this news, the teenager begins to suffer a panic attack and her friends try to calm her down. After class, Sienna decides to go to a store to buy a new wing, as part of her costume was destroyed in the fire. While she is looking through the available items, she is surprised by the presence of Art, who sneaks into the store and starts watching her. When she sees him, the young woman sneaks out and runs to the cash desk. Then the clown follows her and, while Sienna is paying for her costume, he begins to terrorize her. When he realizes that the young woman is frightened, the salesman orders the clown to leave, but when Sienna leaves the store, Art returns to take his revenge. The man then smashes a bottle over Ricky's head and pierces the young man's eyes with the glass. Meanwhile, Sienna meets Allie and tells her that she has been chased by a man in a costume, without even realizing that at that very moment Ricky is being eliminated with a machete, which Art uses to remove his head. When she gets home, Sienna meets her brother and Jonathan tells her that he saw the clown at school. According to the young man, he was accompanied by a girl who was eliminated a few years ago, so there must be some connection between Emily and the clown. Putting all the pieces of the puzzle together, Jonathan comes to the conclusion that something bad is about to happen, because in a few hours Halloween night will begin. After his father's elimination, the young man began to investigate his sketchbook and found images of Art's victims. On one of the pages, the man has drawn his daughter with a clown's head in her hands, but Sienna refuses to take the drawings seriously and tries to convince her brother that what he saw was just someone dressed up as a clown. That afternoon, when she gets home, Allie starts handing out sweets to the children who knock on her door and is surprised by Art's arrival. When the ghoul opens his black bag to receive the sweets, the young woman sees lots of bloodstained tools and closes the door. Immediately, she calls her friend, but Sienna doesn't answer the phone because she's busy customizing a new costume. Hours later, Allie is home alone when she hears the sound of breaking glass. The girl then goes downstairs to try to find out what happened and realizes that her house has been invaded by the clown. On seeing him, the young woman tries to run away, but ends up being captured and has her face slashed by a knife. The monster then takes a pair of scissors and rips off Allie's scalp and throws chemicals at her head to finish her off once and for all. Minutes later, when Allie's mother arrives home, she realizes that the place has been broken into and rushes to check that her daughter is all right. However, when she arrives in the bedroom, the woman finds the young woman's body on the bed next to the clown and panics. While Sienna and Brooke are having fun at the Halloween party, Art eliminates Allie's mother and uses her head as a tray to serve sweets to the children, who believe it's a fake head. That night, Jonathan stays at home with his mother and tries to convince her that something bad is about to happen. When he realizes that Barbara doesn't believe what he's saying, the young man shows her the drawings in his father's notebook, but the woman says he was sick in the head. Furious, Barbara destroys her late husband's notebook and Jonathan is so upset that he decides to leave the house. While walking alone down the street, the young man spots a parked van and approaches it to see who is inside. At that moment, he comes across a scary doll inside the vehicle and rushes back home to check that his mother is all right, as he is afraid that the clown has gone after her. After the young man left the house, Barbara went to the garage and found her car all smeared with shaving foam. She believes that Jonathan was responsible for doing this and starts to clean the vehicle. However, as she approaches the window, the woman spots Art inside the car and the man shoots her in the head. After her mother's perishment, Sienna begins to see the ghost girl in the middle of the party and starts to panic, as no one else is able to see the entity. When Jonathan gets home, he finds his mother's body sitting on the dining table while Art serves the food. When he realizes he's going to be the next victim, the young man runs to his sister's room and tries to get his father's sword to defend himself. However, the clown manages to capture him and uses a tranquilizer to put Jonathan out. After freaking out in the middle of the party, Sienna decides to leave and Brooke asks her boyfriend to take her home. However, during the journey, the young woman receives a call from her brother and he tells her that he is alone in an amusement park. Immediately, Sienna says she'll find him, but what she doesn't realize is that it's not her brother's voice, since Jonathan is unconscious. When she arrives at the park, the girl gets out of the car to look for her brother and receives a message from Jonathan saying that he is trapped in a ride called Terrifier. When he wakes up, the young man is faced with countless scary dolls and soon realizes that he is not alone. Meanwhile, Brooke and Jeff are having a romantic moment in the car, but the young man says he has to go out to relieve himself. Suddenly, Art approaches and starts hitting him with a knife. When she realizes that her boyfriend is being attacked, Brooke gets behind the wheel, but is so nervous that she can't start the car. At that moment, Art manages to capture her and is about to eliminate the girl when Brooke manages to knock him down and runs through the park screaming. As she has a huge wound on her leg, she ends up falling to the ground, but manages to get up and continue her escape when she sees the clown approaching. In an attempt to hide from the monster, Brooke enters the Terrifier. Just then, Sienna hears her friend's screams and starts running towards her. However, when she enters the bathroom, Brooke ends up being surrounded and the clown throws acid in her face. As the young woman screams in pain, he starts to hit her with a piece of wood full of nails and manages to eliminate her. Finally, Art rips out Brooke's heart, which is still beating, and begins to devour it. Shortly afterwards, when she finds her friend's body, Sienna breaks down in despair and starts crying. Suddenly, she spots the clown and is paralyzed with fear. But when she sees her brother, the teenager musters up all her courage to attack the monster and orders Jonathan to flee. When he is wounded, Art becomes furious and begins to strike Sienna, pushing her body several times against the wall. After being kicked, the girl faints and the clown goes after Jonathan, who is hiding in the storeroom. When he realizes that Art has left, the young man tries to run out of the park, but the man is at the door waiting for him and starts to cut him with a penknife. Just then, as Jonathan falls to the ground, Sienna appears and strikes the clown several times with a wooden club. While Art tries to remove the nails stuck in his skull, the young woman runs off with her brother and asks Jonathan to hide while she checks that the place is secure. Suddenly, while the young man is waiting for his sister to return, the clown appears and starts hitting him. Hearing the young man's screams, Sienna rushes to attack her enemy and hits him with an iron bar. However, Art manages to knock her down and the girl uses her own body as a shield to protect her brother from the attacks. Furious, the young woman manages to steal the chain from the clown's hands and uses it to strike him. After venting all her fury, Sienna cuts a hole in the creature's head and sighs with relief, believing that she has succeeded in eliminating it. However, to her surprise, the clown is still alive and tries to squeeze her neck. Seeing his sister about to be eliminated, Jonathan decides to act and steals Art's gun. At that moment, he shoots the clown and tries to wake up his older sister, who faints after the attack. When she regains consciousness, Sienna realizes that her brother has disappeared and starts looking for him. Minutes later, she finds Jonathan unconscious and attacks the clown, who pushes her into a hole. When Sienna gets up, the monster takes the sword he stole from her house and uses it to pierce the girl's abdomen. After eliminating the young woman, the clown plans how to get rid of his latest victim. However, as Jonathan is unconscious, Art decides to devour him. Suddenly, the young man wakes up and starts screaming for his sister, who is trapped inside a water tank. As she was unable to free herself, the girl drowned, but the sword left to her by her father helps her to revive. When she wakes up, she manages to free herself and swims back to the surface. After grabbing her sword, the young woman pierces the clown's neck and strikes him several times until she manages to rip his head off. After eliminating her enemy, Sienna runs to hug her brother, but sees Emily's ghost and prepares for another battle. However, to her surprise, when the girl sees the lifeless clown, she just picks up its head and leaves. So what did you think of these movies? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.